Have you ever stopped and wondered what truly happens when a person turns 80? Not just the numbers on the calendar, not just the birthdays celebrated, but the shift inside, the subtle, almost invisible transformations that change how you live, how you connect, and how you see the world. Most of us grow up thinking of aging as one long slope downward, a gradual losing of abilities. But those who've crossed into their 80s know the truth. It's not only about decline, it's about a profound reshaping. A new rhythm of life begins. At this age, changes arrive whether you are ready or not. Some you might expect. Your body feels different, your memory plays tricks, your social circle grows smaller. But others take you by surprise. New freedoms, deeper meaning, and the unexpected joy of finally, fully being yourself. Think about it. By the time you reach 80, you've lived nearly 30,000 days. You've carried decades of laughter, grief, effort, and hope. You've seen generations grow. And now you step into a chapter unlike any other. A chapter where time itself feels different, where every day asks you not to resist but to listen. In this video, we'll walk together through 5 powerful signs that almost every person experiences once they turn 80. Some may cause concern. Others may surprise you. And one in particular has the power to change the way you see aging forever. These are not just markers of growing old. They are invitations, guiding you into a richer, more meaningful stage of life. Because aging at its core is not just about what is taken away. It is about what is revealed. So as we begin, I want you to set aside the fears you may carry about getting older. Imagine instead that every wrinkle, every change, every new rhythm is like a page turning in the story of your life. A story not of endings but of transformation. Today, let's explore these 5 signs together. Let's uncover how they can guide you, not into loss, but into wisdom, authenticity, and peace. Let's begin. To bring these shifts to life, let's walk alongside someone who has just stepped into this milestone. We'll call her Mariam. Mariam is 80 years old. She lives in a modest home she's known for decades, its walls lined with photographs of her children, her grandchildren, and her late husband. The garden outside is her pride, not because it's perfect, but because every plant holds a memory. Roses her husband once planted, a small lemon tree her son gave her, daisies her grandchildren love to pick. She's not a famous person, not extraordinary in the way the world usually defines it. But in her simplicity lies the universal. She has lived through war, through raising children, through building a home with limited means, through love and through loss. And now, as she turns 80, she begins to notice subtle yet powerful changes that shape her days in ways she never expected. Mariam never imagined her mornings would feel so precious. She used to fight fatigue and push against her body, but now she notices that mornings carry her brightest energy. She finds herself waking before the sun, the quiet house wrapped in stillness. With tea in her hands and birdsong outside her window, she feels her mind sharpest, her heart calmest. As the hours move on, she adjusts. She no longer chases the rhythm of younger years, she honors her own. And in that shift, she begins to feel something surprising. Not defeat but peace. Her circle of friends has also changed. Some have passed away. Some no longer visit. And yet, she doesn't feel abandoned. Instead, she finds herself drawn closer to a few souls who truly matter. Her neighbor who brings her fresh bread. Her granddaughter who calls just to hear her voice. Her old friend Ruth who shares stories that make them both laugh until they cry. What once was a wide social circle is now small but deeply nourishing. Time itself feels different to Mariam now. Days seem to move faster, but moments feel deeper. A simple walk in the garden feels richer than entire years once did. She knows she cannot waste time on obligations that drain her spirit. Instead, she treasures the present, savoring the taste of food, the sound of music, the glow of sunlight on her skin. Her memory is not what it once was. Names slip, keys go missing, conversations sometimes trail off. She worries at first, but then she notices something else. Her mind may be slower, but her wisdom is sharper. She can see connections others miss. She draws from decades of lived experience when giving advice. Her mind may forget, but her soul remembers. And finally, Mariam begins to feel a freedom she never had before. All her life she carried roles: daughter, wife, mother, caretaker, worker. But now at 80 those roles loosen. For the first time she feels permitted to be simply herself. She says no without guilt. She chooses rest without shame. She speaks her truth with clarity. This liberation feels less like an ending, and more like a homecoming. Through Mariam's days and reflections, you'll see each of these 5 signs come alive. She is our guide, our mirror, and our reminder that aging is not just about what fades, but about what grows deeper as we walk through her story. Remember, Mariam is not just one person. She is all of us: your grandmother, your neighbor, your future self. Her journey is a map, and each sign she faces is a milestone we too will one day reach. Mariam wakes before dawn. At first she used to worry. Why can't I sleep like I used to? Why am I awake when the world is still dark? She would lie in bed frustrated, waiting for sleep that never came. But over time she realized something unexpected. These quiet early hours carried a kind of magic. The house was silent, the sky still a deep blue. She would make herself tea, sit by the window, and watch the sunrise. She discovered her mind was clearest in those early hours. She wrote letters to her grandchildren, read her Bible with more focus, and tended to her flowers before the heat of the day. By afternoon, she noticed her body naturally slowing down. At first, she fought it. I must stay busy, I must not rest. But one day she gave in. She allowed herself a short nap after lunch. And to her surprise, when she woke up, she felt refreshed, not guilty. Slowly, Mariam began shaping her days around her body's rhythm, not against it. Why it happens? Science shows that as we age, our circadian rhythm, the body's internal clock, shifts. Melatonin production changes, deep sleep stages shorten, and energy peaks earlier in the day. By 80, it's normal to feel wide awake at 5 a.m. and drowsy by 8 p.m. It's not weakness. It's biology. Practical adaptations. Track your energy peaks and dips for a week. Notice when you're most alert and protect that time. Do your most important activities early. Calls, writing, exercise, or mental work. Build in a guilt-free rest after lunch. Even 20 minutes can restore focus. Embrace an earlier bedtime. Dim lights, read a calming book, skip screens. As Mariam learned, honoring your body's rhythm is not giving up. It's tuning in. And once she stopped battling her energy, she found more peace than ever. But her body wasn't the only thing changing. Soon, she noticed her relationships were shifting too. Change number 2. Your social world refines itself. Mariam's story. Mariam remembers a time when her phone rang constantly. Friends inviting her to dinners, neighbors asking her to help with community events. But by 80, things are different. Some friends have passed away. Others are ill or less mobile. Large gatherings that once excited her now feel overwhelming. First, this felt like loss. But then something surprising happened. Her neighbor Rosa began stopping by every week with fresh bread. Her old friend Ruth, who she hadn't spoken to in years, started calling again. And Mariam's granddaughter began visiting on quiet afternoons, where they would sip tea and laugh about life. Mariam realized something. Her circle wasn't shrinking in a sad way. It was focusing. Instead of dozens of shallow connections, she now had a few that truly mattered. Her conversations grew deeper, her bonds stronger. Why it happens? Psychologists call this socio-emotional selectivity. As we age, our priorities shift. We have less energy for superficial ties, so we invest in relationships that give comfort and meaning. Loneliness is a risk, but for many, aging brings a refined, nourishing circle. Practical adaptations. Nurture the few who nourish you. Call, write, or visit regularly. Let go of social guilt. You don't have to attend every gathering. Stay open to new connections. Sometimes unlikely bonds with younger neighbors, caregivers, or even online groups bring joy. Mariam learned that fewer friends didn't mean less love, it meant deeper love. And as her circle refined, she began noticing something else. Her relationship with time itself was changing. Change number 3. Time feels more precious, more present. Mariam's story. One morning, Mariam was watering her plants when she suddenly realized the last 10 years had flown by faster than any before. The weeks, the seasons, the years, they all seemed to pass more quickly now. At first, this frightened her. She thought, am I running out of time? But as she leaned into the feeling, something shifted. She began savoring moments. A single cup of tea in her garden, the laughter of her great-grandchild, even the sound of rain on her roof, they all felt richer, heavier with meaning. Instead of chasing endless to-do lists, she began asking, what matters today? And with that question, she began living differently. Why it happens? Studies show that our perception of time accelerates with age. Neurologists suggest that because fewer new experiences occur later in life, the brain encodes less novelty, making time feel faster. But psychologically, this awareness can spark mindfulness, a deeper presence in each moment. Practical adaptations. Slow down deliberately. Savor meals, walks, conversations, don't rush. Choose experiences over obligations. Ask, will this bring me joy or meaning? Practice mindfulness. Simple breathing, prayer, or gratitude journaling deepens awareness. With time feeling so precious, Mariam found herself treasuring the present more than ever. But she also noticed something unsettling. Her memory and thinking were not what they used to be. Change number 4. Memory and mind adapt in surprising ways. Mariam's story. Mariam once left her keys in the refrigerator. Another time, she forgot the name of her new neighbor. At first, she panicked, fearing her mind was slipping away. But then she noticed something else. While her short-term memory wavered, her wisdom deepened. Her granddaughter once asked her advice about marriage. Mariam didn't answer quickly, but when she did, it was with a depth that came only from decades of life. Her stories, her lessons, her ability to see the big picture, these had grown stronger, not weaker. Mariam realized. Her mind wasn't gone. It had simply changed gears. Why it happens? By 80, the brain processes information more slowly. Short-term memory retrieval declines. Multitasking becomes harder and focus shortens. But older adults often develop what psychologists call crystallized intelligence. Deeper knowledge, pattern recognition, and wisdom built from life experience. Practical adaptations. Support your memory with tools. Notebooks, routines, designated spots for essentials. Exercise your brain gently. Puzzles, reading, learning new hobbies. Share your wisdom. Storytelling, mentoring, or writing reflections for younger generations. Mariam stopped fearing her forgetfulness and began honoring her wisdom. And with this acceptance came the most surprising shift of all. Change number 5. A profound freedom emerges. Mariam's story. For much of her life, Mariam lived by expectations. Be a good daughter, a good wife, a good mother, a reliable neighbor. She rarely asked herself what she truly wanted. But at 80, something changed. One morning, her neighbor invited her to a noisy community gathering. In the past, she would have said yes out of obligation. But this time she smiled gently and said, "Thank you, but I'd rather stay home today." And for the first time she felt no guilt. She realized that at this stage, she no longer had to prove herself to anyone. She could speak her truth, choose her rest, live authentically. It was as if a heavy weight had been lifted. What once felt like aging sloth now felt like liberation. Why it happens? By late adulthood, many external roles, career, parenting, societal pressures, fade. Psychologists call this stage one of integrity versus despair. Erickson. For those who accept their life story, aging brings authenticity and self-permission. Practical adaptations. Say no freely. Protect your time and peace without apology. Prioritize joy. Do what makes you happy: art, prayer, nature, storytelling. Leave a legacy. Share stories, record wisdom, pass on traditions, not as duty but as gift. And so Mariam discovered the greatest truth of her 80s, that aging isn't just about decline. It's about freedom. Freedom to live authentically, to savor deeply, to love truly. These 5 shifts, rhythm, relationships, time, mind, and freedom, became not a burden, but a map, guiding her into a chapter of life richer than she ever imagined. Mariam began noticing something subtle after she turned 80. It wasn't sudden. It was like the tide pulling back in slow motion. Friends who once called every week now called every few months. Some stopped visiting altogether, not out of malice but because their own health declined, or because life's currents took them in different directions. At first, Mariam felt the sting of absence. Her table seemed quieter. Her phone rang less. But she also began to realize something extraordinary. The friendships that remained, the ones who stayed, who asked how she really was, grew deeper, almost sacred. She no longer had the energy for large circles or endless small talk. And strangely, she didn't miss it. What mattered most now was not how many people surrounded her, but how real the connections felt. Science tells us this is no accident. Psychologists call it socio-emotional selectivity theory. The idea that as people age, they naturally narrow their social world, choosing to invest energy only in relationships that bring meaning and comfort. It isn't just physical energy that changes, it's perspective. When the horizon of time feels shorter, people stop chasing surface-level ties. They focus on bonds that nourish the soul. Biologically, too, reduced stamina and mobility can make big gatherings exhausting. Emotionally, many at 80 carry wisdom. They know that depth, not breadth, makes life rich. Prioritize quality over quantity. Instead of worrying about shrinking numbers, cherish the few who remain steadfast. One deep friendship can carry more comfort than 10 acquaintances. Cultivate depth, not chatter. Ask better questions. Share stories, not just updates. A 2-hour heart-to-heart can linger longer in the soul than a dozen quick visits. Stay open to unexpected bonds. Mariam found connection in surprising places. A young neighbor who checked in, a caregiver who became almost like family, even acquaintances from her garden walks. Sometimes new life enters when old chapters close. Mariam now invites her closest friend, Salma, for tea on Fridays. They laugh about old times, cry about losses, and sometimes just sit in silence together, listening to the birds. That ritual, small but steady, gives her week an anchor. And in this slowing, in this refining of relationships, Mariam notices something else shifting too: her sense of time. When your social fabric tightens, your experience of time and purpose also transforms. The days don't just pass, they feel different. That brings us to change #3. Mariam used to rush through her mornings. She would make tea, read the newspaper, and already be thinking about tomorrow's errands or next week's plans. But something changed after 80. Now, when the kettle whistles, she waits just a moment longer, listening to the sound fade. When she pours the tea, she notices the way the steam curls upward, dancing in the light of her window. She takes her time stirring, then sits quietly, feeling the warmth spread through her hands. Mariam realizes that she doesn't want to race anymore. She doesn't have to. Each hour feels like a gift, and she treats it as one. She looks back over her life differently too. Her memories come alive in sharper ways. Her first job, her wedding day, the sound of her children's laughter echoing down the hallway. She sees not just what she did, but how fleeting it all was. And she looks forward with a new kind of urgency, not desperate, but deliberate. At 80, time becomes more than a measure on a clock. It becomes a companion, a teacher, a treasure. This shift in time perception is a well-studied phenomenon. Research in psychology shows that as people age, especially beyond 70 and 80, their awareness of time changes fundamentally. When life ahead is shorter than life already lived, the brain naturally prioritizes what matters. You become less tolerant of waste, whether that means unnecessary conflict, shallow commitments, or busyness without meaning. Biologically, the brain's reward systems adapt. Instead of chasing novelty and long-term goals, older adults often lean toward present-focused joys. Meaningful conversations, sensory experiences, spiritual reflection. This is sometimes called the positivity effect, the tendency for seniors to focus on emotionally satisfying experiences over stressful ones. In essence, time feels more precious because it is. And the way you engage with it shifts toward presence and purpose. So, how can you, like Mariam, live not in fear of passing time but in harmony with it? Reevaluate your to-do list. Ask yourself, does this task light me up or drain me? At 80, you don't need to check every box. You need to choose which boxes even matter. Let go of obligations that no longer serve you. Practice presence in the small things. Turn daily rituals into sacred pauses. A morning walk, a shared meal, the act of watering plants. These aren't filler moments. They're the essence of a life well lived. Set micro goals, not monumental ones. Instead of planning in decades, plan in days. Finish that puzzle. Call your granddaughter. Write a letter. Bake bread. Each completed moment becomes a small celebration. Celebrate small wins. Did you wake up with energy? Did you smile today? Did you notice the sunset? These are not trivial. They're victories of presence. Mariam has a new evening ritual. Each night before bed, she writes down just one thing she's grateful for from that day. Sometimes it's as simple as the roses bloomed. Sometimes it's as profound as, I forgave myself for an old mistake. That single line keeps her anchored, reminding her that even at 80, life is not about how many years remain, but how deeply you live the ones that do.